Hey everybody, welcome to derivatives. We're going to start talking about the rules that help us really find derivatives much quicker. We've been using the limit of the difference quotient, which can be very tedious. So the power rule says if you're going to take the derivative of really a polynomial or something that can be written to some form of a base to a power, well, the derivative is equal to taking that power, bringing it out front, and multiplying it to the base, and subtracting 1 from the power. So this is the definition we use for the power rule and help us later on with chain rule. This is Nicholas JMV. So why don't we go ahead and get started on our examples. Okay, so I've put a bunch of examples up here for you, and it says find the derivatives of each of the functions. So we're going to start with some simpler ones as we go through these. We're going to get gradually more challenging. So f of x equals x cubed. So this is a polynomial, okay? And so what the power rule says, if we want the derivative, in this case f prime of x, the derivative, that's equal to taking the 3, multiplying it out front, x, and then you take your n to the 3 minus 1 power, which is x squared. Okay, so 3 minus 1, you get x squared. So that is the derivative of x cubed. It is 3x squared. Example 2, g of x is equal to 5x to the 6th power. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite g of x, and that's 5x to the 6th. Now, what essentially you do is you just ignore the 5, so the derivative becomes 5 times, well, the power rule says bring the power out front, so bring the power out front, 5 times 6 to the x, and then you take the power and subtract 1. 6 minus 1 is 5. Okay, so you get 30x to the 5th. That is the derivative of 5x to the 6th. In part C, we have a polynomial. We have h of x is equal to x cubed plus 6x minus 8. Now you could split this up into three different polynomials here, but we'll just take the derivative of each term. So we have h prime of x. Well, we know the derivative of x cubed, that's 3x squared. We already did that one, so 3x squared. Okay, the derivative of 6x, well, you'd leave the 6, right? And then you would have times 1 to the x to the 0 power, and the derivative of any constant is 0, okay? So this becomes 3x squared plus 6, right? You might say, oh, this is 0. Well, a base to the 0 power, anything to the 0 power is 1, so this is just all becomes 6. So our derivative of that polynomial, x cubed plus 6x minus 8 is 3x squared plus 6. Okay, so we've got a few more examples to do, and these get a little more challenging. So let's go ahead and look at D. So we have f of x equals 1 over x, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to take f of x, we're going to rewrite this as x to the negative 1, something more familiar. And so now we're going to take the derivative. We're going to have f prime of x equals, well, bring the power out front, so that's negative 1 times x to the negative 1, and then this is where we've got to be careful. You're subtracting 1 off more. A lot of people put 0 here, so be careful. This just becomes negative x to the negative 2 power, or negative 1 over x squared. That is the derivative of 1 over x. It is negative 1 over x squared. Now what happens if I look at g of x? So g of x now is 1 over x squared, big G of x. So I rewrite this. So g of x becomes x to the negative 2. Okay, so g prime now, the derivative becomes, so you bring the negative 2 out front, negative 2 times your base to the negative 2 minus 1. So that becomes negative 2 times x to the negative 3 power, or negative 2 over x cubed. Okay? Depending on the text, you can leave it like this, but I like to simplify it out, okay? And our last one with a radical here, h of x is equal to the cube root, so it's hard to see, cube root of x to the 5th. Well, that's the same thing as writing h of x to the 5/3 power. So let's go ahead and take this derivative now. So you have h prime of x, And you're going to bring that 5/3 out front. So you have 5/3 times x to the 5/3 minus 1. Well, that minus 1 is minus 3/3, right? That's 1, minus 1. Take 1 off. So you get 5/3 times x to the 5/3, so that's 2/3. Now, I would leave it like this. You don't have to put it as the cube root of x squared. I would just leave it like this, okay? So that, you, ladies and gentlemen, is a few examples of the power rule. If you have any questions or comments on how to do that, please let me know. You can type the comments below. We'll see you next time.